It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from Wensleydale Brewery, and this is a can of their Nightshade Imperial Stout. It's a stout coming in at 10% ABV in a 440 milliliter can. Massive fan of this brewery. I came across them last year. I got sent some wonderful beers from them 2022 by an old brewmaster that I used to know, Don Jeffrey. He used to live in South Wales. He moved to the Wensleydale area of the United Kingdom, and he really fell in love with this brewery. So he's kind of, well, he described to me on a telephone call that he's helping. He just turns up and he does what he can at this brewery, because he's retired now, he's old, but he just wants to keep his finger in, you know? He just wants to keep, because when you're in brewing, when you're in this industry, you love it. You love it, and you always want to kind of like just stay involved wherever you can. So brilliant, fantastic. Let's get this Imperial Stout then out into a glass and see what we get. Looks terrific. Nice bit of smoke on the can opening. Beer in the glass. One finger, tan coloured head, jet black beer in the glass. Looks absolutely fantastic. Look at that. Look at the quality of this beer. If you rock the beer back and forth, you can see the carbonation chasing the head of the glass. You'll be able to see a little bit more of that in a moment when I drink some of the beer. I'll be able to really swirl it round for you. But yeah, jet black in colour. There's no sediment in the bottom of the glass. It looks fantastic though. It looks like it's got a fantastic rich mouthfeel. Let's get the aroma. Smells fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I've not had an Imperial Stout like, well, I've had some kind of barrel aged Imperial Stouts recently, but just a straightforward Imperial Stout. I've not had one for a long time. And this smells delicious. Loads of roasted malt. Bit of raisin, bit of plum, bit of prune. Then the roasted malt comes through. You're getting that kind of rich chocolate, coffee, caramel aromas coming through. Hint of tobacco smoke in there. Smells fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. Indeed, it has that rich, creamy mouthfeel. Stone the Crows. Stone the Crows, what a beer. Fantastic mouthfeel. A little bit of carbonation pushes the beer on the inside of the mouth. But you can tell the beer's been brewed with oats. Loads of oats. It's made it thick and rich. And it's like when you've... Well, it would be a bit like if I went and opened up the bolt on the bottom of the sump on the oil tank of my car. Now, all I ever do with my car is top the oil up. I never do like a complete oil change. So I bet there's oil in that car that's like thick as glue type of thing. I imagine if you opened that oil tank and it kind of just glooped out of the bottom of the tank then, or the sump, then you're probably looking at something like this, you know, that thick used engine oil look to the beer. But it's a lot to do with the roasted malt, this beer. But it's also a lot to do with the hops. So when you brew say a regular pale ale or an IPA, the hops will give off flavours of orange peel and tangerine, grapefruit flavours. But pardon me. When you add those same hops to a beer with a lot of roasted malt in it, it changes the dynamic of the hop. It changes the dynamic of the hop flavour. For me, it gives off much more of a flavour of like fruit of the forest or plum, fig, prune, darker fruits. And that's because it's mixing with the darker malts in the beer and offering those kind of darker fruit flavours. It's really lovely. It's got a lovely bitterness to it as well. And that bitterness is coming from hops, and it's also coming from the roasted malt in the beer. So roasted malt, let's get into that. I explain it like this these days, in that if you ever had a handful of malt in your hand, naked malts are really light in colour. Well, they would be kind of lager coloured, wouldn't they? But then, if you looked at a coffee bean is green until it's roasted. It's only when you roast a coffee bean that you get all of them fantastic roasty, toasty flavours from the coffee bean. It's exactly the same with malt. The moment you're roasting that golden malt so it goes black, you lose the flavours of biscuit and breadiness, and you gain flavours of bitter dark chocolate, caramel, coffee. And it works really well with the beer. Because this beer has got a big, thick, rich, creamy mouthfeel. I'll be able to show you that mouthfeel now. I've drunk some of the beer. You can see the lacing on the sides of the glass. You can see the little bit of alcohol legs for that 10% ABV. But because it's got that rich, creamy mouthfeel, if you were to go into like a Starbucks or a coffee chain, probably a local coffee chain to you rather than Starbucks, if you order a latte, for argument's sake, now a latte is my favourite coffee. If you think of a latte, that big, thick creaminess from the milk, and then you've got that wonderful coffee flavour, the milk flavour, maybe a touch of chocolate, if you put a bit of that chocolate on the top, you know, the flake chocolate they have in the coffee bars these days, then essentially, you've got something like this, haven't you? You've got that big, thick, bold, creamy body, you've got the chocolate, you've got the coffee, and you've got the caramel. Absolutely fantastic. A really delicious beer. Little bits of vanilla in there, nice amount of bitterness, a little bit of sweetness there to balance off that bitterness, a little bit of molasses there as well. Imperial Stout is a bigger, fuller bodied version of a classic style stout. We pulled no punches with this one, creating the biggest grist we have ever used. This isn't for the faint-hearted, but worth it for those who dare. Full of coffee, cinder toffee, and amazing rich roast flavours. Absolutely fantastic. So the ingredients are water, malted barley, wheat, oats, hops and yeast. That's all the ingredients used in the beer. You get all that wonderful mouthfeel from water, malted barley, wheat, oats, which is the important one, hops and yeast. So Nightshade Imperial Stout, then let's rate it. I really like it. I really like Wensleydale Brewery. I think they produce some fantastic beers. This looks good, smells good, and tastes good. I like that Imperial Stout enough to give it, I'm going to say, a 9 out of 10. So 9 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Thanks for watching. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.